Okay, we have Martin Truex Jr. with us, driving the number 78 5-Hour Energy Bass Pro Shops Toyota. Martin will be starting from the P1 position in tomorrow's STP 500. Martin, if you can just talk about the importance of starting up front and getting that number one pit box as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Martinsville, it's definitely a big advantage to start out front. First pit box, obviously, I think everybody knows it's a big deal here. It's where you want to be, so you get that clean stall in and out, and hopefully not get tore up on pit road. So happy about that, and excited about the 5-hour Bass Pro Camry, and guys put a heck of a setup in there for round 3 of qualifying, and here we are. I seen a few. You look like, what? Huh? What'd I miss?
We'll open up for questions for Martin. Please raise your hand, wait for the wireless mic, and start with your name and affiliation. We'll start up front here with Ryan.
Ryan McGee, ESPN. I remember years ago you had a top 10 finish, and the look on your face out on pit road was like how important this is. How important is it for you? Obviously, you do what you do on intermediate tracks, but to also capitalize at a place like this.
It's huge. I think, even earlier in my career, for whatever reason, this track in particular has been a tough one. And so, over the years, just trying to figure it out, the nuances of it, and trying to figure out that feel that you're looking for, because I think here more than anywhere we go, it doesn't change over time, but it changes throughout a weekend more than anywhere we go. So it's definitely a unique place, and we're definitely getting closer, I feel like. Obviously ran really well here, really both races last year, but mostly in the fall we had a good run and ran consistently up front all day. So it'd be a huge one. Obviously, I want to win at any short track at this point in time, and we've been really good on the short tracks lately. But this one, still not quite where we want to be, and still feel like we're figuring it out. So hopefully this is the weekend. We had a good day of practice today, but the thing about here is you gotta be careful, because you can be fastest in practice all day long, and it doesn't matter. Come Sunday, it's going to be different. So hopefully we can make the right adjustments and have a good car in the race, especially in the second half of the race.
Jacob Seelman with Speed Sport. Martin, you mentioned that this is a place where things change so much over the course of 500 laps. How tough is that to manage as a driver over the course of a race like this, when the car changes, the track changes, and yet, you talk about traffic here. It's so congested and so easy to make a mistake.
Yeah, it's real difficult. I think, as any other short track, the better your car is, the easier it is to deal with, the happier you are generally, as long as somebody doesn't slam in the side of you too many times and piss you off. So it's really fun to race here. It's a lot of fun. It's a great racetrack, and beating and banging is awesome, as long as you're using the right side of your car and not getting the left side destroyed because you're slow. So you want to be on offense, you want to be fast, and like I said, so far this weekend we've done that, and hopefully we can continue it.
Right here.
You have your spotter. Talked to him earlier about some things about what he does and does for you. Last week he got to say those words again, stage winner.
He lives life for that, just for that.
Tell me about him some and what he does for you.
Yeah, he's just he's a lot of fun to be around. He's a great guy. He really enjoys racing. He actually works for the team during the week as well. He runs the shop in North Carolina, so handles a lot of deliveries of parts and pieces and things like that, and takes care of taking things to the R&D center, and basically runs the East Coast furniture row operation. So great guy, great teammate, and spotting it's been interesting over the years with him. He's quite a character. He's a lot of fun to be around, and more than anything, I mean, he keeps it low stress. He enjoys what he's doing, and keeps, for the most part, pretty calm. And I'm pretty nice to him usually on the radio, but we do have fun, and it's been awesome to work with him.
What was it like to hear those words last week?
I'm pretty sure he was probably more excited about it than I was. And that's what you always look for in your spotter, those famous words of his, stage winner. So he got pretty into that last year, and he was definitely feeling lost going 4 or 5 races this year without saying it. So I definitely feel good that we could get him his first stage win of the year and have some fun with it.
Reed.
Reed Spencer, NASCAR Wire Service. Are you happy to win the pole with the rain out, or would you rather have had to try to win 3 official poles in a row?
I would have liked to try to get 3 in a row, no doubt about it. I think we would have had a shot at it. We've qualified well here in the past. I would say qualifying's probably been our strongest thing we've done on average here. So, yeah, I would have liked to try for sure, but, that's the way it goes. Can't change the weather. And I was actually really happy to get both practices in. I mean, earlier today it looked really bad, and, I think even before after the first practice, before the second, we were kind of like, ooh, this doesn't look too good. So it was nice to get that time on the track and let everybody get their full, amount of practice in and hopefully get ready for Sunday.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. A couple questions. Last year, it certainly got rough at the end of the race.
What race are you talking
this
about?
This one.
Oh, okay.
I
don't remember this one last year. I only remember the fall race.
The fall race, yes.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that? I don't know if accepted norm.
I don't think it's.
Or is that what you almost have to anticipate? Maybe is a better word.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on who's behind you, whether you anticipate it or not. I don't, if I was leading the race, I wouldn't anticipate getting dumped because, I've never done it to anyone. So I guess some of that comes into play, who you're racing, what would somebody do it to you back? I'm sure all those things come to mind. Yeah, so I guess for me, I wouldn't expect it, but, some guys might, and other guys probably figure if they get in that position, they're second, they're going to do whatever it takes. So there's a lot of different mindsets out there.
I also wanted to ask you, you got started running go-karts at what, like 10 or 11, I think.
11.
There are kids, I think I saw a story where there's a kid who's actually going to be running at Nashville Fairgrounds who's 13. There's a lot of guys who started running in late models at age 13. Obviously, times have changed from when you got started, but when you see or hear of people running late models or things like that at such an early age, does there need to be a limit, or is that's a case of, hey, look, 13-year-olds or 14-year-olds that go to college are celebrated. Why not a 13 or 14-year-old at a racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that anybody. I guess it's kind of a tough line to draw. I'm sure there's some kids that are ready for it. There's some that handle it well, and obviously we've seen kids 13, 14, 15 be successful at short track racing, late models, whatever, you name it. So I would say that, there's nobody that should say you can't do it. I guess the hard part is what happens when somebody's thrown in there that really can't do it but thinks he can, or his parents think he can. I guess that's the tough spot you're in. But, for me at 13, I would say I probably could have drove, a full-size car. Obviously, it was illegal. I wasn't allowed to in New Jersey. I had to be 18. So I lost quite a few years in racing because of that. That I think I was mature enough and knew enough about racing I could have done it. So I guess it's more about the individual than it is, it's a generalization.
Would it be worth moving if you had a kid that was 13 that got to race and couldn't race in that state?
If you could make it work, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be. I didn't have a chance. But yeah, I think it would be, to be honest with you. I mean, I can't imagine how much I could have learned from the time I was 14 till 18. You talk about 4 years of racing, that's a lot. A lot of races, lots to learn, a lot of divisions to get up through as well. So, yeah, it's crazy, man, how much has changed over the years.
All right. Thanks a lot for your time, Martin. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay, we are now joined by Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 M&M's Toyota. Kyle will be starting second in tomorrow's STP 500. Kyle, if you can just open up talking about the importance of starting up on the front row and helping out getting that win.
Yeah, it's this place is obviously a tough, challenging little short track. So everybody always talks about the brakes and just being able to make sure that you can save your equipment for much of the day, and being able to start up front will help do some of that. But it's such a long race here. You got to take your time and be mindful of the tires for the first few runs, especially after the rain that's going to set in tonight, and possibly some snow that's going to set in tonight. With being able to get the track dry and everything, it'll be pretty green. So these concrete corners will chew up tires as much as anywhere. And, so I think it's better to start up front. Obviously, you don't have to chase guys down, and you don't have to worry about the leaders coming up behind you very quickly and being able to not go a lap down.
Thank you. We will open it up for questions. Any questions for Kyle, please raise your hand. Wait for the wireless mic. Kelly Crandall.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Kyle, in the last 5 races here, you've been the best in the series with average finish. You've got 2 wins in that time span, have led almost 900 laps. Was there ever a light bulb moment here of either finding the rhythm or just knowing what you wanted in your car to be as good as you've been lately?
No, not really. Just, I feel like if you look past the last 4 or 5 races here, I remember even times with Dave Rogers here, maybe 2012, maybe even 2011. I'm not sure how far back to go, but we started finishing top 5s. We started getting some 5ths, some 4ths, some 3rds, some 5ths, maybe even a 6th or something in there, just with some late race shenanigans or whatever kind of going on. But that's kind of when it started coming together. But it was still frustrating because there was never that moment where it was like, man, we figured this out and we can get a win. It was always just kind of like, well, we can finish top 5. We've got top 5s going. We got top 5s going. So it just kind of kept evolving and kept getting better for us, for myself and for Joe Gibbs Racing as well, and for myself and Adam especially. Since I've had Adam, we've just kind of clicked here and we've been able to put together some wins and some strong runs, leading a lot more laps and being up front, challenging for better finishes. So. Certainly want to have some more of that going on this time around. It's really cool and very important when you come back here in the fall to win that race, because obviously it puts you free spot to Homestead.
Reed
Spencer, NASCAR Wire Services. As cold as it's likely to be when you race, do you expect the track to change less than it normally does, and do you think the track will still take rubber?
Yeah, I think it certainly will change less. Correct. It will be less change than what we're accustomed to here. I feel like the colder it is, the less rubber does go down. I also think that this tire is different. It did put down a little bit of rubber today, even for as cold as it was today. I think that there will be some rubber that goes down tomorrow, but I don't think it'll be as dark as it was or could be if it were warmer outside. So we'll keep notice on that as far as the track changing and what things are happening to make sure we keep up with it.
Caleb Whistler, Kicking the Tires. With next weekend being Easter, do you guys have any Easter plans?
As far as Easter goes, no, not yet. But certainly there's airplane tickets ready to go. We're going to the Bahamas on Monday, so hopefully we can get this in tomorrow and be done with that and get home tomorrow night and hang out with Brexton for a little bit before bed, and then we wake up Monday morning and we're heading to the airport. So it's going to be fun to just kind of get away and relax for a few days and kind of chill out, and then come back home just before Easter so we can celebrate it with all the family and everything, and have hopefully some Easter egg hunts. We'll see.
We're going to wrap up front here with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Had a couple questions. I want to check, first off, you started Legends Cars at 13. Am I correct or am I off on that?
Depends on what year you go off of my birth certificate.
So
I think it was 13, yeah.
And I asked that in part to frame this question, as I saw there was a story where there was a 13-year-old kid who's going to run the late model, the top division at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Obviously, it's not the first 13-year-old kid to run in a late model anywhere, but it'll be the youngest at that track. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, from somebody who has been impacted by age restrictions in the past, the thought of a 13-year-old racing in a late model. I'm not asking you to judge this particular person, but just the notion. Is that something that should be looked at in age restriction, or is it something that, sometimes you see 13, 14-year-olds celebrated because they're in college already, and if you're good enough, you should have that opportunity? How do you view that with your experiences?
I've heard of a 10-year-old in a late model.
Okay. Well, there you go.
That's way too young. I think it depends. I don't think it's necessarily an age thing as much as it's an experience thing. And I look at go-karts. How did that particular individual do in go-karts and bandoleros or legends cars? What's his history been in vehicles? Has he won races? Has he been good? Has it been worth him moving up each and every time that he gets to a new vehicle? So I don't know who you're speaking of. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know who the 10-year-old is. I've just heard that number before. But, you know, I think you can't just – I don't think it's smart to just start at 10 or start at 13 in a late model. Like, that absolutely should not be possible. You know, as far as me, yeah, I started when I was 13 in Legends cars. And when I got to the late models for myself, when I got the late models at 15, 16 mainly, I finally got caught when I was 15. So I tested a couple times when I was 15. They let me test, but then I couldn't race until I was 16. I was scared to death of the thing. You know, just with how much faster it is than a Legends car, how much cornering speed it has more than a Legends car, and what anything I've ever been in and what I've been used to and accustomed to as far as the grip level goes and the speed of it is, and the G-forces that it gives you and things like that. It was just a big deal at 16 years old for me. So, you know, I think that there's kids that can handle it. Obviously, I don't think that it's all that important to be as young as some of these cats are, getting in late models and stuff at 10, 13 years old, whatever it is, because I look at myself not being 16 until doing that. I look at William Byron not being 15, 16 until doing that. He got a late start like I did. So you can still have a late start and still be good in being able to make it to the big time. I don't think you have to be so young getting and pushing yourself along. Like, people ask me, well, what are you going to do with Brexton? Like, the first thing he can get in, he can be 4 years old. And I'm like, if he wants to, fine, we'll do it. But if he doesn't like it and doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to force his hand. If he doesn't want to do it until he's 13, 14 years old, then fine. You know, it's I don't think it matters. I think if you have it, you got it, and you don't have to learn it at that young of an age.
And I also just wanted to check on, based off what happened at the end of the race last week in terms of interviews, and you offered some suggestions on social media. Did not know if anything else had gone further or what kind of reaction you'd gotten to your suggestions about TV interviewing all five and being required in all five doing it on pit road, and then 3 coming into the media center. I didn't know where, if anything, kind of moved forward or where things stood and what kind of reaction you got from that suggestion.
Yeah, there was a drivers' council meeting this week on Tuesday, and I was at the Charlotte Roval test, so I was doing that, so I wasn't able to make it. But my ideas were brought up. I made sure to speak with one of the guys that I knew from NASCAR that was going to be there, and he kind of voiced my side of it to the rest of the drivers, and there was a discussion, but I'm not sure what all came of it. You know, I just find it unfair sometimes when you're not a driver is not available for an interview, that we get called out on it, but then when we're standing there wanting to give an interview and TV doesn't give one, that TV's not called out on it. You know, so I think it needs to be both ways. It's unfortunate sometimes, I guess, you run into tight TV windows. You know, that they don't air. I've had interviews before that they haven't even aired on TV. They may use it for a Race Hub show or for an NBC NASCAR America show, whatever. But you know, when you're on TV after a race, that's a bigger impact than being on a weekly show. So I don't know where it's all gone or what's all going to happen. I haven't heard any procedural changes, so nobody gets back to me on anything. Daily. It's still changing.
How did it go? Were you comfortable with what's, or do you have a better suggestion on anything that can be done with that track?
There's a couple corners that are a little iffy that I talked to Marcus with and Don Hawk about, and they have an idea of some changes to one of them, but not to the other one. So it's just when you're coming down onto the front straightaway and you have that braking zone in the infield grass, and then you turn, you have a direct straight-on impact and head-on into a wall on the front straightaway there. So that's kind of a concern. The chicane on the front stretch. When you turn to the right, you're heading head-on into a wall, and then you have to turn back left to go along the front straightaway. And when we were testing, it wasn't bad. You know, you could kind of hop this curb, and then you could hop that curb, and it was fine. But they wanted to straighten that out more, like turn 7 at Sonoma, which is more of a 90-degree turn. So they wanted to make that angle worse. So I expressed my displeasure with that idea. And then we also had the same thing coming from 7 to turn 8, where you're braking in a bumpy zone and heading head on into the front straightaway wall before you get back on NASCAR 1. Follow me?
Okay, yes, on the last corner of the road course.
Of the infield.
Of course, and you're heading into the wall and turning.
Yeah. So softening up that corner as well too, and making that wider and a softer corner where you can corner that and get back out on the main track a little bit safer. So those two instances I felt like were kind of the worst two instances. Other than that, I thought the track was okay. It's a bit narrow and tight in places, but I think you have that in some other road courses that I've not been at, that NASCAR's been at. Like Montreal's really tight as well too, and it puts on a decent show. So I think it'll be fine. It's just going to be different, and I think it's going to be about survival more than anything. Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. But we look at them every week, so I guess I shouldn't be complaining.
You good, Dustin?
Anybody
Dustin's
else?
done. All right.
Oh, we can conversate all day long. Come on my bus.
Thanks,
Actually,
Kyle.
it's Adams this weekend. So.
Yeah, take advantage.
Yeah, nobody ever gets back to me now. No procedural changes that I'm